Hello and welcome to the Federal's Big Money, a show where we talk about personal finance. And this is a Women's Day special episode. If a woman is surrounded by a family that loves her, be it her husband or children, parents or siblings, should she still insist on financial independence? If a well-wisher who understands money, such as taxes, is willing to take care of her wealth, why not? So, to talk about this, we have Lavanya Mohan with us. Thank you for joining. And my first question is, from what age would you suggest women start handling their own money?
Uh, First of all, thank you for having me. And when it comes to age, I think as early as possible and as early as one can, because money is a tool in all our lives. And the earlier we kind of get comfortable handling this tool, the better decisions that we'll have, the better the confidence that we'll have when it comes to handling this tool, right? I would say dealing with money is like any other skill set. It requires comfort, it requires practice. And it's only when we keep practicing something, it's only when we keep handling something that we get really comfortable and therefore more confident. And that kind of pushes us into making better money decisions, not only for ourselves, but also for those around us. So I would definitely say as early as possible, but I'll also say it's never too late. So if you haven't started getting comfortable with money, also, there's no such thing as, oh, it's too late. No, you can pick it up at any point in time. So I would say if you haven't done it so far, do it. Start today, start tomorrow. And if you are trying to introduce someone in your life to money, I would say as early as possible.
So, my next question would be, what about women in their 40s, 50s, or older who wish to take charge of their finances? Can they start then? If they can start then, how?
So, like I said, there's no age barrier or anything, right? You can pick anything up at any age. That has always been my firm belief. And in terms of what should they start with, I think that will depend upon their existing comfort levels. I know women in their 40s and 50s who aren't even comfortable handling their own bank accounts, right? I think for women who haven't gotten comfortable at all, I would say start with your bank account, right? Like go to the bank, get comfortable with your bank's processes, like something as simple as getting your passbooks updated. Although we have internet banking and net banking and all of that, I would say get comfortable with the net banking app that you have on your phone. If you aren't comfortable with apps, just try it on the computer, or even go up to the bank, have a chat with your bank manager about what's going on, what facilities are available for you in terms of investments, what facilities are available with respect to your account. I think you have to just start getting comfortable with the basics, and the basics are basically your bank account. So you start there, get comfortable with your bank statements, look at how money is flowing in and out of your account, look at where it's going. So once you get comfortable with that, I think you can take the next step towards investing. So I would say when you're in your 50s and 40s, your investing strategy also has to be a bit different because you are older, right? There is there's a very popular kind of formula to measure risk, with respect to your age. They say 100 minus your age is the level of risky investments that you can make. So if you're in your 50s, for example, you can take perhaps 50% risk. And by risk, I mean the share market, etc., right? The stock market, etc. I would say 50% you still want to be on the safer side. So if you haven't made a fixed deposit yet, for example, or if you don't know how that works, I would say, try and open a fixed deposit, see what happens. This is also one of those things that you only learn by doing. I can keep talking, but until you really get comfortable, it's almost as if getting comfortable will guide you with respect to what to do next. I would also say read a lot, uh, pick up the newspaper, read business news, go on to all your favorite news websites, watch the business shows, watch what they're talking. And at the start, it will be an entirely different language. And this is also something that I believe in, which is that money is a language. You know, when somebody is speaking in French, you're not going to understand. Half the times when someone speaks in Hindi only, I don't understand. So the more you absorb the language, the easier it becomes to understand. And the only way to really absorb is to expose yourself to as much of the language as possible. So it's basically putting yourself in an environment where money is discussed quite often, and automatically the language of money will become clearer and clearer to you. So yeah, three things: get comfortable with the basics, ask a lot of questions, immerse yourself in as much money related news and views as possible.
A lot of couples these days are going for separate accounts with a joint pool for common expenses, like household expenses. So, what should be the proportion of that, and how should they arrive at that formula?
So I think having separate accounts is great, with respect to having some hygiene, right, with your finances. And for me, a lot of people say it has to be an equal share. I don't think that's true, because equal is not always equitable. Just because it's equal doesn't mean it's fair. And I personally don't think it's fair at all, because number one, even if it's a working woman, given the gender wage gap, she's going to be paid less. And all of us come with different obligations, right? Like, I might have to take care of my parents, for example. They might have specific needs. Or my partner might have to pay off a loan that he took before. So all of us have different financial situations as individuals. For me, one of the simplest ways to kind of break this is in the proportion of your earnings. If one person brings in 1 lakh a month, for example, net, like one lakh gets credited to their account, and the other partner say gets 2.5 lakhs, which is like 2.5 times, right?
Yeah.
So then the joint pool becomes 10,000 from here, 25,000 from here.
Okay.
That's how it's in proportion to your earnings. That is one way of looking at it. Now, again, this is under the assumption that they're at fairly equal levels in their careers, which might not always be the case. So when that is the case, one other way that couples can tackle it is if they take on a particular head of expense. For example, I can take on groceries every month. I know I'm comfortable. Whereas my partner can take on rent. And that is also fair. Ultimately, it comes down to the couple. There is no hard and fast rule. I know of couples where the entire set of household expenses are also taken care of by one partner, and that's also fine between the two of them. It comes down to the couple. But two ways to think about it are to either take on one head of expense per person, or put in money in the joint pool in the proportion of their earnings. Again, it comes down to the couple. Like, they need to have a conversation for sure and figure it out for themselves.
That's actually true. But what about single women? Are their financial needs different from those of women who have their own family, be it siblings or husbands and children? And what would be their ideal investment option for single women?
Absolutely. I think single women have very unique needs, especially with respect um, to their dependents, right? I think we say single women, but it's not like they're alone. They might have dependents either by way of children or by way of parents, right? Who they will have to support. So ultimately, it comes down to their dependence and also the borrowings that they might have. If you've taken a loan for your education, for example, or if you've taken a loan for any other reason, perhaps it was a medical reason. So I would say that single women, before they start investing, must look at three things. The first is an emergency fund, where they have 3 to 6 months of their earnings. I would say 3 months of your salary or 6 months of your expenses sitting in a fixed deposit account. Because I think, given the economic situation today, everything is very unpredictable. We don't know when people are losing their jobs. We don't know what's going on in the corporate world. Things change in a snap. So one day you have a very comfortable job, and the next day you don't. So one should always be prepared for exigencies, especially when they're single. So definitely have either 3 months of your salary or 6 months of your expenses sitting in a separate fixed deposit or wherever that you can access it immediately. So plan for that, save for that. Number one. The second thing that single women definitely need to have is health insurance. Once again, if the pandemic has taught us anything, it's that healthcare is very expensive to the point where it can put one into debt. We've seen a number of people borrow, for hospital expenses, and they're still paying it off. And let's not forget the fact that women are far more susceptible today to a number of lifestyle problems, whether it's PCOD because of stress, diabetes, I think, is also higher in women these days. Women are also susceptible to a number of very horrible kinds of cancer, that are specific to them. So it's just uh, very prudent to have health insurance on your side, as for yourself as well as for your dependents. Again, if you're taking care of your parents who are older, or much more aged, definitely have health insurance for yourself as well as for them. And one other thing, especially for single parents, number three, I think single parents, as well as single women who are taking care of their parents, would be to take something called term insurance. Now, term insurance is not the same as life insurance. Term insurance is a type of insurance that kicks in only when uh, there is a death or there is a massive accident that leaves you, unable to function. Now, when you are supporting someone, and if something bad happens to you, who's going to take care of the people you're supporting, right? And a term insurance plan, while it might feel like you're just paying for nothing because you don't get anything unless there is an event that happens, this will give you a great deal of safety because you can pay premiums for up to 10 to 20 times your annual income, and you basically know that either your parents or your child or whoever it is that you're supporting is sorted. This is something that I would recommend specifically for people who are providing for somebody else, whether it's their child or whether it's their parents. So definitely think about term insurance if you have dependents. And I would say if you don't have dependents and if you are living by yourself or you don't have to worry about dependents or anything, then I would definitely say start investing. I would say start investing. Start getting into the habit of putting away money. While you don't, you can start with a recurring deposit account, right? You don't have to get into mutual funds. You don't have to get the latest stock investing app, nothing. You just have to get comfortable with the fact that you can set aside 30% of your paycheck and live comfortably.
Yeah.
So to create that habit of saving, I would say would definitely be a priority. Just to, you might think I'm not saving for anybody. I don't have anyone to really save for, but you can save for yourself. You can save for your future self, and your future self will be very grateful that you did, because uh, money in the end gives you optionality, right? And this is what I always tell young women who are like, oh, why should I save? Money gives you optionality, and what optionality essentially is the absence of obligation.
Hmm.
You don't have to be in any situation that you don't want to be in. Whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, you don't have to be there because you have the freedom to move, and money gives you that freedom to move. So I would definitely say start saving, not for anybody but yourself.
But
Right?
yourself.
So those are
Okay. So my final question is, if a woman in her 20s is waiting for her first salary and approaches you for advice, what are the 5 things that you'll tell her?
first thing I would say is to not get carried away with investing or finding stocks or mutual funds or anything. You saving a great deal of money right now is not going to make that much of a difference, because real growth in wealth comes with increased earnings. So I would say live your life, right? But get into the habit of saving. You don't immediately have to save like 50 to 60% of your paycheck. Don't feel the need to like put everything in savings because you've just started savings. Don't get carried away or do anything extreme. Live your life, but get into the habit of just putting some money aside. And remember that wealth only comes with increased earnings. So look at ways in which you can progress in your career versus figuring out what mutual fund do I put in and like getting anxiety about saving, right? The second thing I would say is that there is going to be a lot of peer pressure the moment you enter a work. And in your 20s, it's very easy to get carried away, whether it's expensive nights out. You know, some people really like to party, of course, and some of your colleagues might want to party all week, but that also costs money, right? Especially when you're living alone. And you're like, okay, what am I going back home to? I might as well just go out. But all of those things add up. And I think one of the most important money lessons that a 20-year-old should learn is the art of saying no. Learning how to say no, I think, is definitely one of the key lessons that I would uh, want a young person to learn. The third thing I would say is, yeah, learn how to budget, especially if you're living alone. Learn how to budget. I think all of us have seen situations where at the start of the month you're flush and you're just spending, but at the end of the month you're like flat broke and you don't know what happened. And you're literally lying low until that credit comes back.
Yeah.
Right? So when you learn how to budget, it can be as simple as an Excel sheet. There are apps for it now. Uh, Figure out what's coming in, what's going out. You can start with just recording. Just record what you're spending money on, how much is coming in. You'll see the patterns. And once you've started observing, you'll get a grip on it, and then you'll know how to plan for it. So start with recording everything that you're spending. Kind of like, people maintain food diaries. You can maintain a money diary just to say where everything is going. And yeah, that'll help you to kind of create a budget. That's number three. Number four would be to be very wary of buy now, pay later schemes. I think it's a very popular kind of option that's been presented to a lot of youngsters, especially today, given how evolved tech is, given how evolved payment systems are. It's so easy to get a loan, and the way BNPL is also advertised is with a heavy focus on lifestyle goals. They're like, why wait for the iPhone? Why save for the iPhone? Get it now, pay for it later. But all of this is very loaded, right? Like imagine paying EMIs for everything. And youngsters are getting very comfortable with paying these EMIs without understanding the load that is already present in each of these EMIs, right? You're paying interest. There is the monthly stress of, making each of these payments. So if you want something, especially a lifestyle goal, right? Whether it's a pair of very expensive jeans or whether it's the iPhone, there is nothing wrong in wanting any of these things. I am a firm believer that if you earn money, you should spend it in all the ways that makes you happy. You should. Like I believe it. But you shouldn't spend recklessly. And in my head, taking any of these BNPL options is being reckless because you are basically depriving your future self of money, which might imagine if you are paying all these EMIs and suddenly you're laid off. Who's going to take care of these EMIs? What's going to happen? Right? You'd rather wait, take 3 to 6 months. And okay, even if you're not getting laid off, um, what if there's a medical emergency and you have to make payments for that? You're basically depriving your future self of money. That's what's happening with all of this BNPL stuff. So I would definitely urge young people to save for what they want. Wait, give it 6 months. There's something called delayed gratification, right? Give it 6 months. By the end of 6 months, you'll realize that you don't even want it. And then you'll have more money also. So I would definitely say don't give in to your impulses when it comes to lifestyle goods. It's very easy because of BNPL, but stay away from BNPL is what I would say. Like as a young person, again with a lot of peer pressure, there will be the pressure to buy all of these fancy, shiny things, but save for them, pay for it in full, and enjoy it. It's number four. Number five, there are actually two things. The first is no FOMO. I think one of the other big things that happened during the pandemic was this crypto boom, right? And it saw many youngsters put money in something that they did not fully understand. There were a lot of experts who warned it, saying it's unstable, nobody really knows what it is it real money, nobody knows. And yet, so many young people put their savings in it. Some people even borrowed to put money in it because they believed that it was a very easy way to make a lot of money. But the truth is, there's no free lunch in life. The smart ones who managed to get out early, smart ones, lucky ones, I don't know. They made some money perhaps, but so many young people lost a lifetime of savings just because of FOMO, right? Just because they wanted to ride this crypto wave. So when it comes to investing as a young person, you can risk, you can take a few risks because being young allows you to take a few risks with your investments, but never go all in. Always, if you're going to play with something, if you're going to put your money in something that you don't understand, which in itself is something that I don't recommend, always make sure you know what you're putting your money into. But if you're going to take a gamble, treat it like a gamble, right? Like put in a bit of money, see what happens. There's nothing wrong with experimenting, right? All of us learn by doing. But don't go all in just because some friend of yours made like a massive gain, right? Because there's really no such thing as a free lunch in life. There's really no such thing as easy money. So definitely, if you're feeling FOMO, like please do your research, figure out what you're getting into before you put any money into it. So no FOMO driven investing. And the last thing that I would like to add is to talk about money as much as possible with your friends. Talk about it because that's another great way to learn. And it's what I said before, right? You have to really immerse yourself into the language to get comfortable with it. And I think once you get comfortable with just talking about it, whether you want to talk about investments, whether you want to talk about credit cards, whether you want to talk about how people are saving up for a larger purchase, like perhaps a home or a car, I think all of us have something to learn and all of us have something to share, especially in your 20s when you're all figuring it out together. I think it's very helpful when you have a safe space to discuss all these things. So definitely talk about money, ask questions, be curious, read as much as possible, and yeah, just be very curious. I would say. Those are the five
Absolutely.
things, five and a half things that I would tell a 20.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for your time, Lavanya. Those were really some wonderful inputs from you viewers. Thank you for watching. Please comment if you have any doubts in personal finance. Please do comment your doubt. We'll try to do a show on that. Once again, thank you for watching and thank you for joining, Lavanya.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more interesting updates.